Thanks, Shalja. So creator economy is today a buzzword. If you look at the total value of creator economy, globally it's pegged at $250 billion. And it is expected to touch $500 billion in a few years. If we talk specifically about India, there are over 100 million creators and they influence billions of dollars of purchase decisions every year. In this session, we have two experts and they will throw more light on the implications of the creator economy on brands and how brands can maximize and leverage creator economy going forward. Let me start with you, Aditi. You yourself are a creator. How do you see creators now redefining storytelling for brands as compared to traditional advertising methods?
Firstly, good morning and thank you for having me on this panel discussion. It's a very interesting topic, creators' economy. How it differs from traditional advertising, I would say, and since I have been part of both sides of the table, if I may say so, is that at that time it was very limited. Pretty much advertising agencies hired either cricketers, film stars, or top models to be the face of a brand. There used to be a brand ambassador who spoke about a particular product, and everything related to advertising revolved around that one or two people. Now what is happening is with the creator economy, there are so many, I don't even know the divisions anymore. You know, there is nano influencers, there's micro, and so on and so forth, and mega, of course. Now brands are approaching, depending on where their consumer lies or what their budget is, they approach different mini brand ambassadors. So there is a massive shift between in advertising where your brand ambassadors are concerned. There used to be one or two, now there are multiple. I get approached by many brands to say that we've chosen 10, you're one of them. So that's the major shift that I see. At one point, I was the face of the brand, and I'm one of the many.
Great, so very true, Aditi. Manisha, traditionally advertising has often relied on scripted, polished messages, while creators today have more relatable messaging with respect to brands. Do you see this shift happening actually, with respect to storytelling when it comes to brands and creators?
No, definitely, and I think that is really why companies and brands are also flocking to creators. Because creators are able to interpret the brand in a way that makes sense for audiences, and you're able to do that. I think the previous panel spoke of context, and I think Aditi, when she spoke of having multiple faces and multiple voices represent your brand, you're able to actually get to a more diverse set of audiences through stories that make sense for them. And one of the things we always feel is that it's great when brands don't expect and creators are not mere puppets of the brands. I mean, where you are just taking the brand message and just relaying it in the same way, then I feel that there's not too much value added, and it becomes just another form of traditional advertising. But we've seen creators, particularly in complex products, let's say like skincare or banking financial services, are able to really decode and deconstruct the product and talk about it in ways which an ordinary consumer can understand, which perhaps traditional advertising with its kind of formats is unable to do. So I think there's great value in the kind of storytelling that creators are bringing to the table. And I feel especially for categories that are complicated. I mean, if you start to think of, let's say, healthcare, financial products, etc., I think there's a great value that they can add. My only caveat is that, that creativity shouldn't cross into the line of something which is not truthful. But within, what is right, I think there is just so much potential. And that is why we see consumers also responding to creators in a way that is different from the way they respond to traditional advertising. So I think it's a great development overall.
Sure. But what role does, coming back to you, Aditi, and then I'll come back to you, Manisha, again. What role does authenticity play in a brand's credibility, Aditi? And do you feel creditors play a big role in, building authenticity and credibility for a brand as compared to traditional advertising? Has there been a shift there?
I sit on a fence where this is concerned. You know, the word authenticity. At the end of the day, reels that we watch all the time, it is real life, it is not really real life. What I choose to show on social media is my choice. I can curate it. So it is in that sense a curated persona of a creator that we are seeing, we are witnessing, as opposed to what I am in real life. However, where brands are concerned or where connect is concerned with the consumer, it works. If I specialize in, say, beauty products or showing how I do makeup, etc., then that works. So in that sense, yes, it does work to some extent, but if you distill it, if you think a little deeper, then it is not really authentic. We need to choose to believe that, yes, this is what works for me.
Okay. Manisha, your take on this? You know, and there are studies that show that more than 80% of consumers would buy from influencers that showcase authentic content.
Yeah, I don't think consumers are also expecting that, this is the real life of people. In some way, consumers are also, I think, as the market matures, understand that this is not really, in that sense, authentic in the sense that this is not what happens in their homes. But I think authenticity could also come from trusting that this person, when they're talking about, let's say their, a particular product, has done the research, or they have a certain degree of expertise in it. And I think that can also bring in the authenticity. So, it's about having the expertise. It's about having, really your audience's interest at heart. To make sure that, while the brand is asking you to do X, but the fact is you are a brand yourself as a creator for your audiences. And therefore, how do you maintain your audience's trust in you is by being truthful about what you're talking about. It's about, bringing your expertise to the table. And I think so long as you do that, I would say that that is a good foundation for trust.
Manisha, moving on, one question, and I'm sure a lot of people in this hall would want to know, how can brands build long-term relationships with creators, influencers, rather than, a one-off engagement? Any tips, any best practices, any thoughts, any recommendations on that?
I think brands will always probably have a mix of both. Of course, depending on what is the outreach strategy or what is the brand strategy at that point of time. And I think there is a place for both. I think larger influencers or more expert influencers will be used for really their expertise on the subject matter, or they connect with the audiences. And I think you may also then have a large number of people, which is more that you're using those influencers for their reach, or literally tapping into them as a distribution channel. Whereas you will have certain perhaps long-term relationships with people who have demonstrated expertise or demonstrated a certain connect with consumers that you want as a brand. So I don't think it's an either or, but yes, I think having certain steady portfolio of content creators can build a long-term property expectation for your brands, which can be useful. So I would say it really depends on brand strategy. I don't think it's a, it's a singular either this or that answer.
Aditi, your take? I feel there are new business models also emerging when brands partner with influencers. They partake with equity stakes, or probably there are revenue shares also. You think such kind of models could also enable long-term partnerships with brands, or?
Yes, it certainly will, because at the end of the day, it will be give and take between the brand and the creator. How much the brand nurtures the creator and vice versa will then define the length of the time that these two will go together in future. So if, for example, if I were to be a brand ambassador for a particular product and I have a human connect, which in the earlier panel was discussed very widely, then definitely I will continue to work for or with that brand rather than then choosing to go ahead with some other brand. So I think that nurturing relationship, of course, it's given that the product is of good quality and it has helped the creator herself or himself in whatever she's a subject matter expert in, I think that will go a long way. And of course, like Manisha said, that it depends on the brand strategy, where they want to reach, and how much their expansion plan, etc. is.
Manisha, what do you feel, in what ways does the creator economy shift the power dynamics between the consumer and the brand? Because this is here to stay now. How do you see the equation changing?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because, earlier the brands were kind of talking directly to consumers and, via advertising, which was very controlled by the brand, right? I mean, every second of the script was, cleared by legal, cleared by this, internal resources based on consumer research. So there was a very tight control, I think, that brands had in terms of the messaging that was going out to consumers. Today, the brand itself in some way has become decentralized when you have, in some cases, even thousands of ambassadors kind of interpreting a central message but delivering it in your own way. And I think while that obviously brings in a certain freshness to the conversation, I think from a brand safety perspective and trust perspective, there needs to be a certain kind of ability to monitor and to be clear about what messages are going out, because I mean we've had cases in ASCII where some really big brands, we found some influencer activity which was really saying very bizarre things. I remember there was a toothpaste brand where an influencer was saying that this is great for my child's immunity and health. So it was kind of bizarre, and obviously the brand had not kind of authorized those messages, but so it was something that the brand got pulled up for, but not something which they may have quote unquote approved. So I think that balance between how much control you exercise vis-a-vis the freedom that you wish to give influencers is a tricky balance, because if you control too much, they'll all sound like advertising, which then I think does not add any value to the process of consumer connection. But yes, so I think systems in place. From a consumer point of view, I think there are factors much beyond content creators which are pushing some power into their hands. The ability to have that two-way conversation with brands more directly, I think, is certainly kind of giving more power to the consumers. I think consumers finding their own voices and their own cohorts to call out certain behaviors or campaigns of brands. They have that power, and that brands take them seriously as well. You can't kind of say, okay, someone in some corner has said this and, let's ignore it. So I think in that sense, yes, consumers have more voice. But I think what is managing brands, consumers, and content creators is frankly algorithms, which determine what power is given to each person at what point of time. But yes, I think there is more equitable distribution of power, certainly I think between brands, consumers, and content creators.
Great. Aditi, your take on this?
Yeah, absolutely. It has definitely shifted from brand to the brand ambassador, and like one product to a brand ambassador. Now there is this in-between layer of creators. And what I feel is there has to be a context, there has to be a boundary that the brand needs to define when they choose any creator. Because otherwise, like she said about toothpaste, I know of so many self-proclaimed life coaches, and being a psychologist, having gone through an intensive training to deal with human issues, self-proclaimed life coaches can only cause a lot of damage. And we follow these, I've seen so many people suffering because of that. Therefore, it's very important for the brand to define that this is what you need to create within. So as much as I don't like to put anything or anybody in a box, where these things are concerned, certain rules and regulations and monitoring those become an integral part where the brand is concerned when they give out any message to the creator to go ahead and create whatever they need to create.
So what kind of approach do you take, Aditi? Because you are, you work a lot, on the area of mental health awareness and advocacy. So what is your approach when you, kind of create content or deliver messaging around this?
The first question I always ask is, will I use this product that I'm endorsing? Will I allow my children to use this product? If the answer is yes, then I go ahead and endorse that brand. It's not necessary, and I'm not saying that, oh, one should not, so I'm not taking a high ground here to say that this brand should not be. No, every brand has its place, but to be responsible or be aware of it, that, okay, will I use it? I think that is something that every creator needs to ask himself or herself over here. The second is, of course, the quality of the product, the ingredients which go into it, and that again boils down to whether I will consume this or not. These are the two things which I pretty much pay attention to. And third, as much as I would, I mean, I'm going to be straight up here, the budget, of course.
Manisha, where do you see the creator economy moving from here, say in the next couple of years? Any trends that you see emerging?
I think it's here to stay, and I think it is here to grow. One of the challenges, I think, and this is something that I think both brands and creators and people who are representing creators, in terms of agencies, etc., need to be watchful of, is that while we see a lot of interest and excitement around it, one of the challenges is that we also see a lot of misleading content. We see a lot of, hiding from consumers that this is a commercial message. So our challenge is that, the foundation of this, it's still in its nascent stages, it's still evolving, it's still growing. And unless the foundation is strong, rooted in truth, rooted in some business fundamentals that build trust, there will come a day where consumers feel all this is the same as advertising, and that to me is a loss to the ecosystem. So how do we make sure that we build trust with consumers? Because if you finally have no trust with consumers, then I think you lose the currency that makes consumers listen to you. So to me, that is definitely an issue. And I just want to add on a little bit, I think, to what Aditi was also saying earlier, that, I think particularly in areas like finance, mental health, etc., influencers ensuring that when they speak to consumers, that they have the expertise to speak about it. I may have had, let's say, a mental health experience as an individual and gone and attended therapy, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert and I can talk about it, and that doesn't mean that everyone has the same problem and will have the same solution. So I think it's important for content creators to also be very wary of, I think certainly in certain sensitive categories, that when you really speak with consumers, do you have the expertise to really talk about these issues, and your experience may not be the same as anyone else's experience. So if you're talking about your experience, then don't position yourself as an expert, if that's the only source of your expertise, So again, categories, I think, like health, finance, investments, etc., your experience is not universal, and there is a difference between a professional opinion, versus a lay person's opinion, which is based on very limited understanding of the issue. So I think these are all, again, factors driving to how are we thinking about this in the future, if we are able to build a scenario where consumers trust influencers. And today they do. But if you see more and more of this where, people just express disappointment, I bought something and, this is all nonsense, or, this is actually not great for my skin, but just because a brand paid them to say it, they are kind of saying it, that erodes the trust. And I think that erodes the foundation of a new industry, which is in the process of being set up and established. So I think influencers and content creators are a fairly strong innovation for the brand ecosystem and for the advertising ecosystem, but it's for everyone to nurture it and to make sure that it stands the test of time. Otherwise you will have one of these episodes, one day the government will, kind of catch 3 people and say, oh, this is all nonsense that they're saying, and it kind of influences and affects the credibility of the entire industry. Hopefully we don't let it get there.
But Manisha, do you feel there should be a certification agency or a body certifying, creators, especially in areas where there is a lot of trust or credibility needed, like you said, in mental awareness or finance, probably?
Yeah, so in fact, ASCII has, not for these areas, so I'll just come to that. ASCII actually has an influencer certification program. It's an e-learning program, and we in fact now have some companies that have mandated that any influencer they work with will have a certification, because that covers the basic level of compliance where you make sure that your own brand doesn't fall into trouble later. So the fact that disclosures need to be made, what can you talk about, what can you not talk about, etc. So I fully agree with you, because many content creators have not come from, in the sense that they're not marketing professionals. They've not had education in marketing or brand building or, the benefit of, let's say, having a legal team telling them what's okay or what's not. So I think that level of professionalizing yourself as a content creator, I think definitely demands that you are aware of what to do, what not to do. So like the ASCII e-learning certification is one. From a health and finance influencers point of view, the ASCII code already requires that you disclose your qualifications when you talk about anything to do with health or finance. So in finance, for example, if you're talking of investments, you have to disclose your SEBI registration number. And now SEBI is also kind of coming down quite hard on financial influencers who are talking about investments but have no certification and have not affiliated with SEBI. So you will see more and more that, especially in sensitive categories, that you will see some greater regulation coming in, which is a good thing, I think, from a consumer protection point of view.
Wonderful. Finally, Aditi, your thoughts on trends in this space, some challenges, opportunities that you see in the creator economy?
Well, like Manisha said, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And as we move forward, there are going to be more and more creators, because everybody sees the benefit of being an influencer. And because everybody has a camera and ability to speak, a lot of them are self-proclaimed experts. So I'm glad that there is a certification or a certain requirement that has been put in place. But I have to admit, I wasn't aware of it, and I will make sure that I go and get the certificate, because I do speak a lot about mental well-being and wellness. So this message itself needs to go out to all the creators, and I hope that we do something together so that there is certain awareness that is created, because like I said, that this is here to stay, and the trend, I think, going forward is going to be this, that there will be certain rules and regulations that will be put in place, more so in sensitive areas, whether it is skin, whether it is your mental or physical health. I think these three places, these three departments definitely needs this, because it can affect you very, very adversely, and it can be life-threatening, which we've already seen in our practices. So yes, kudos to you guys for doing this, and thank you very much for the question.
Thanks, Aditi. Thanks, Manisha. We'll open up the floor for questions, if there are. Yes, sir.
Yes, my life is always towards the productivity and happiness, actually. And ma'am, you have played the multiple profiles. So my question on that, Asian Paint has started cultures where influencers visit their properties and, see about how the happiness they're living in their lavish home and something, So how such kind of the, content created by influencer with the help of the other brands like, Samsung, Apple, all the technology brands, where influencer, content creator take a, interview for the people who, have a mental health, actually, happiness, and something create, So those kind of, what is opportunity and how such kind of example can be created, how one brand has started a culture and other people has followed, So what kind of such kind of things can be possible where people can, watch those kind of interviews and motivate themselves in their life, actually.
So if I got your question right, you want to know how to spread happiness?
Through others' example, people
Yes.
has who experience with the different practicing,
Yeah.
So
Well, most brands have realized that emotional connect is the key to sell their product, and which is why happiness or anything positive is something that is going to sell their product. But one does have to realize that constant happiness is not possible. There are ups and downs in life, just like your heartbeat. If you see the graph, it is not steady, and you know what steady heartbeat means. So happiness at one level is not possible. That is something that one needs to keep in mind, be aware of it. But yeah, selling positive emotions or happy emotions is always something that will work. So,
Great. We'll take probably, okay, 2 more questions. Yeah, the gentleman at the back, please. He raised his hand first, so can you give him the mic?
My name is Anant, and our question is India specific, because in the US it does not matter. France, in the presence of a medical doctor, I'm using a mangle a word, it at least multiple personality disorder. Does character matter in India at the creators level? For character of creators, notoriety, bad publicity, something nasty happening, or they being involved in, does that matter with creators in India?
well, yes and no. If there is a particular brand that has approached a celebrity, and then the celebrity or the influencer in this matter, in this case, does something which is negative, then of course the brand pulls out saying that, okay, this person is not part of our brand endorsement anymore. But I have also seen that people who have enjoyed negative publicity suddenly shifting a little bit and projecting themselves as influencers, and then brands flocking to it. So it is the discerning consumer which needs to be aware of this, to see what the character of the person has been. And it's not like everybody has to be perfect, or influencers not allowed to make mistakes in his or her life, but thereon how has that person lived his or her life is something that the consumer needs and the brand needs to see.
Gracias.
I would just add to that. I think it also depends on, again, what your brand stands for, right? I mean, your brand could sometimes stand for things which are not always, very happy and very simple or something. So I think it's also finally a match between your brand values, what the brand of the celebrity or influencer is, and finally what message you want to tell your consumer. So I think there's space for all kinds of messaging, and so long as your brand values are aligned to that messaging, good luck to you.
Gracias. Thank you.
Great. One final question before we wrap up. Yeah.
Thank you for that opportunity. I agree with the panel that, the way the creator economy is growing, there is a requirement for better regulation. So I quite liked what Manisha mentioned in terms of the certification that you spoke about. My view is that self-regulation is definitely the starting point. But probably one of the other ways, which is what I wanted to check with you, if ASCII is also working with various platforms. I'll give you an example. On YouTube, if you look at, if you are uploading some content, there is a copyright strike that happens, right? You can't use music, and there's so many other things. So is there any scope where you are engaging with the channels to see that all these influencers are actually supposed to upload their certificate, their qualification, which kind of is important for them to generate content? Because what is happening in India today is there are millions of self-proclaimed experts, and especially for health. And while Aditi did talk about mental health, but I don't think it's only limited to mental health. All around, you've got dietitians, you've got doctors, and then even in terms of cosmetics, if you look at, right? You've got all these homemade remedies, and there is no check on that at all. So are you planning to work with channels so that, some kind of process is put in place, some framework is in place, where they are not allowed to put up their content unless they have, demonstrated that they are really expert in that area?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great suggestion, and I will have a chat with the channels about it. But just to kind of step back, that, one is it's an ASCII requirement, and which is self-regulation. It's also the government's requirement. The Consumer Protection Act, their guidelines also state that health influencers need to declare their declarations, or at least say that I'm not an expert and please refer to an expert if you want more information. And we are not seeing perhaps that, used quite uniformly. So I think it's, sometimes working with the platforms is a little tricky, because if it's a global mandate, then they are, they kind of are more happy to do it. And when sometimes it is a local, I think they also struggle internally to find the you know, how their policies work at a more local level. But I think it's a great suggestion. You know, it's also a matter of keeping their own viewers safe, so they should be concerned about misinformation on their platforms as well. So I think it's a great suggestion and something.
And also in India, the numbers are in our favor, right? So let's
Yeah.
face it, we are the
Yeah.
largest
absolutely.
economy for most of these channels. So even if they
Yes.
have to have a bespoke model for us,
Yes.
I think it's just a matter of organizations like you to speak up and
Yeah,
get it
yeah.
done for the sake of our consumers.
Yeah,
right?
the dialogues are on many fronts, so in terms of how do you strengthen oversight, how do you strengthen consumer protection online, etc., etc. So I think the dialogue is on, but yes, you know, absolutely. I think the specific suggestion that you've given in terms of uploading a certificate, I think is a great idea.
Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Aditi. Thanks, Manisha. Thank you, everybody.